UFC's back in France.
Bonjour.
Comment allez-vous?
That was way more than I was ready for.
I've got 3 years of French in high school. I can say 3 words.
I went to a French restaurant recent.
Really? Where at?
In Vegas.
Oh.
It was actually one I always wanted to go to. You know, Gordon Ramsay. I love Gordon. Like, I'll go gay for Gordon easily. He got his start in French cuisine and then, you know, backtracked into everything else. And so it's one of the most revered cuisines. And so there was this place I always wanted to go to in Vegas called Bardot Brasserie. And so we went for the Sphere. You cornered AQ. It was so funny. I actually talked to him today, saw him back at training today. And, you know, the tickets were really expensive. I spent $3,000 on 2 tickets, and then I was too high up to see anything.
Anything.
Yeah. And it sucks because I've been to other events, and, you know, somehow I always weasel some really good tickets to get them for free, sit with the fighters, whatever it is, and you're 5 rows up. It looks awesome. I was so high up. I'm just sitting here watching the screens, and yes, it was cool to be there and all the stuff, but I'm almost like, man, I would have just rather watched this on TV and saved myself, you know, between the whole weekend, probably $5,000-$6,000. I would rather just stayed at home. But I talked to AQ today and I said, AQ, you know, I'm trying to speak my broken Mongolian, his broken English. And I go, everyone else was so quiet when you came out, and me, oh, let's go. And he goes, I heard you from all the way up there. He heard me screaming for him, but no one else was cheering for him.
It was, man, first of all, AQ was one stand-up away from winning that fight.
Crazy.
Or one takedown defended from, you know, kind of winning that fight. If he could have gotten up one time or defended in the third. All 3 judges had round 1, Raul, round 2, AQ, and then he just wasn't getting up. So that was...
And how delusional of Rosas to get on the mic afterwards and go, Dana, 50 G's!
He said it after the fact. I saw something, and he was like, I was just in the heat of the moment. I don't know. It was a Sphere. He's like, I get that was probably not the right thing to say.
Well, of course it was. It was such a boring fight. Like,
yeah, I get it. The Sphere was not... Like, you hit it. That was my only issue with it, was how far away we were. Because I was in fighter tickets, you know, so AQ gave me and Eddie some tickets. We were up on the 3rd level, which was basically Mars to Earth. I mean, it was like so far away. But that said, that was the coolest event I've ever been to. The coolest...
Wow.
Scene, the coolest everything, like sporting event, like everything. That was so amazing. The production and the screens and how they had all the different places of, you know, different parts and times of Mexico and everything. And they built up each scene, which was very cool. I was actually, while we were there, I didn't really care about the fights. Like, I mean, the fights are fine, whatever. I just definitely wouldn't have gone for the fights. I just wanted to see what it was going to look like the inside of the Sphere for the fights. And it exceeded expectations.
That was phenomenal.
Amazing. I think a band would have been way cooler to see there, because you don't care. I mean, when do you see lead singer right up front? You know what I mean? It's just
never,
like,
yeah,
you're
hearing the music.
Yeah. And so I think a band like a Pink Floyd concert or something like crazy. I mean, they'll probably tour one more time and they probably won't make it to the Sphere, but something that has these like crazy visuals and going, you know, I think something like that would be really amazing.
Travis Scott concert at the Sphere would be insane.
I don't know. I don't know what his concerts are like.
It's just insane. That's why people die at his concerts, you know?
So, I mean, I thought it was the coolest experience ever. I would really like to see like a couple really good bands up there. I think that'd be very cool to go. I wouldn't do another UFC there because, again, they were so far away that I couldn't see, and I'm blind anyway. I think I had my glasses on. I don't even remember. But you had to look at the screens. I mean, they were so far away. It was insane.
It's frustrating. I get like anxiety at those events because I'm like, no, I paid for this ticket, so I must watch in the ring.
Yes.
And then I can't see, so I have to watch the screen, and it makes me upset.
Was legitimately trying to watch it, and I could not. They were so little ants just running around going. Outside of the main and the co-main event, the fights were phenomenal. The Irene Aldana cut from her hairline into like her tear duct out and over, and that looked like something out of Auschwitz. Like they were doing like murdering people.
How tough is she? That was crazy.
Oh my gosh. And it was actually from a headbutt that caused the initial cut. That was absolutely wild, but that was one of the most fun. I hate fight week. I hate fights at this point. I hate MMA at this point. I usually leave Thursday or even Friday or even sometimes Saturday morning to get there for fights. It's just I don't go for fight week for the most part anymore, and I don't really want to. This fight week was a lot of fun. I went there out the whole week. Zombie was out there with us. I went shooting with Mick Maynard and all those guys at this like crazy private 550-acre ranch. It's called Prairie Fire. It was an hour away. We had to drive an hour out of the strip to get there, and it was the coolest experience of my life.
That was awesome. I saw you hanging out with everybody, all the brass, all the people.
Oddly enough, I was out shooting everyone too. Like it was like I was fucking Yosemite Sam out there just going. I was actually did all right, and then Zombie smoked everybody. And then him and Chris Curtis kept going. Curtis is like a gun guy, and he got smoked. Zombie just smoked him, just like bang, bang, bang,
Korean
bang.
military.
Yeah. So then the guy that was running it went against Zombie. You know, Zombie's like you and me. So they did it. And this guy was a 10-year, ran Delta Force. He was a major general or something. I forget. Lieutenant Colonel. I forget. I think he was a Lieutenant Colonel. Sorry. And he ran Delta Force for like the last 10 years of his military career. And he went out there, and there are levels to this shit. And he
crushed Zombie.
And then the other instructors were up there, and he crushed all of them too. And I mean, like, as cool as could be, like, without even just, I mean, you could tell if there's somebody under pressure and there's guns going and flying, that's the guy you want next to you.
He's like the Turkish guy at the Olympics.
Yes, yeah. Just going. Like, that dude was
Hand
awesome.
in the pocket.
But we got a UFC in France again. Now, does this mean they're going to do like a trans intro like they did with the Olympics?
Wait, what? What did you say?
What? Did you not see the Olympic? You saw that, right? Super weird.
Wait, what are you talking about? I really didn't watch any of this.
Really?
Stuff. No, I didn't.
You got to go back and watch it.
Are you joking, Brandon?
No, I only watched the Olympic boxing. Honestly, that's it.
I don't think I watched any Olympic.
You didn't hear about the opening ceremony where they had like a bunch of drag queens and trans people
and like
they
kids.
redid
it was like super weird.
Dude, that sounds so fun.
They redid like they made fun of the Last Supper, like they kind of mocked the Last Supper with a bunch of
like a
drag
gay
queens.
Last Supper.
Yeah.
It was weird. But
that's really cool, actually.
And then they had the trans boxing scandal. That was a thing, and it turns out she wasn't trans.
She's just actually
just ugly. But yeah,
I thought she was kind of cute.
So yeah, we're out there. These theme cards we know are generally it's always bet on black, and black's the home team.
But lately it's been bad. I mean, even on the last card, you know, this is where I got mad. I got suckered into some square bets on Yasmin. And I think even on the breakdown last week, I was like, man, this line is like crazy wide. I think that Caitlin's going to put up a good fight. Like it's going to be a really nice fight.
I thought it was going to be a close fight that Yasmin just like outvolumed. But
she looked good, and watching the fight, I said, man, she looks really uncomfortable though. I said, just one of those hooks needs to land, and it could change. Sure enough, she throws it, doesn't catch that hook this time. Boom, that's it.
Well, for all of you wannabe MMA fighters out there, man, like one, you're not smarter than your coach, and two, sit down on your fucking punches. And if you watch, they both threw hooks at the same time. And Yasmin was tall, and because she was tall, her chin came up, and Caitlin sat down and was angled out. And I mean, they both threw hooks. It was Dan Hardy. Was it Rory McDonald, Gabe? Was that the one where they both double hooked each other? And
no, it wasn't Rory. It's Dan Hardy and Dwayne Ludwig, right?
Maybe when they both double hooked each other and one of them got knocked out. Yeah, I forget, but. Yeah, I mean, it really, the details that coaches say, and everyone, Alan and I, our boxing coach, we were talking about that today, is what people think it's like, oh, this combo and this movement and this and that is stupid. What separates the good from the great and the great from the exceptional is the basics and the fundamentals, and just being on balance and being ready to go and being just like in your hips and not a new combo or a new this or a new that or like movement and all of this stuff. It's always the basics and it's always the fundamentals. And it kind of goes full circle because if you're training anything, you start with the fundamentals, right? Like at a very static level, you're learning to swing a tennis racket, right? And that's just, okay, swing, go. And you don't even know why you're doing this. It's like a coach modeled something. So they showed you, they swung a racket a few times. They explained how to swing a racket, a couple talking points. That's called modeling and teaching and pedagogy. And so they did that a few times, and then you emulate that. And you don't really know why you're doing it. They just told you to do it, and you kind of get it. We're swinging rackets, and that's what you do. Then what happens is you get a little bit better, and then you start to do a little bit of live stuff, and you start to volley, and you start to play. And then doing those basic drills isn't fun. So then you just play, and you kind of just go, and you don't think about those drills. And that's when bad kind of behavior, bad habits come about. And then you get to a little bit higher level and a little bit higher level, and then you start going live, and you start playing tennis matches, and then you're going and going. And then at some point, the elite throughout this process, and in different elites will start to focus on this on different levels, but especially if you have, like, again, what you would call like static drilling, and then you would have variable drilling. Like in fighting, static drilling would be like, I shoot a single leg, I lift it up, I trip you, you don't give me any resistance. Whereas variable drilling would be like, I have a single leg, you're giving me a little bit of a look, there's a little bit of a flow, I finish. Tennis would be like, static would be like hitting a tennis racket, whereas variable would be like, all right, you're volleying something at me, you're not trying to win, but you might like hit it a little in front, a little behind, a little to the left or right. And so, okay, now I have to like try to match that. Then you start going live, and then you go actual competition. But then the very best at anything, they go through that. And then the full circle of it is they go back to that very static stage of modeling again, and they start drilling the basics just again and again and again. But now, instead of drilling the basics how somebody else wanted them to drill the basics, they're consciously drilling the basics to perfect their own basics. And that is really, if you want to get good at anything, that's kind of the life cycle of getting good at things. And you see all of these fighters, they don't want to go to the beginning, and they don't want to do regular people classes, and they don't want to drill a jab cross, sit in your hips. The best ones are the ones who got to that level, and they're drilling a jab cross, sitting back in their hips.
Look at better Biev. Like, he's amazing to watch.
Yeah.
All he does is jab cross, jab cross, jab cross, and then he just does it powerful and has great timing on everything that he does.
That's it. It's doing the same things. It's not learning new moves. It's learning what you know and better.
Did you watch any boxing this weekend?
I didn't.
Anthony Joshua.
I saw that he got knocked out.
That was horrific.
I rarely watch boxing. I used to be a really, really big boxing fan. And just over the years, maybe it's because I don't have cable and it's harder to find. And I just like,
that is my one beef with it is there's so many fight cards on every week, boxing fight cards. And I'm always constantly like, where do I find this one? Where do I find that one? Where do I find this one?
If it was on ESPN Plus, just turn it on, just like the UFC. And
some are, and then some are on DAZN, and some are on YouTube. And it's like,
it's all fragmented. So I don't know. And that's the biggest barrier to my boxing entry is just finding the freaking thing.
Well, so just from the betting side, so, Du Bois had this like reputation as like really chinny, really fragile. He's going to break. I've liked the guy for a long time. I bet him really big against Hrgović in the last fight. Now he's going to Wembley Stadium against Anthony Joshua, who's, shredded out, like an Olympic gold medalist. Like he's all the things. He looked like a complete shell of himself. It was unbelievable. It wasn't even a competitive fight. Du Bois went out there and just knocked him down, dropped him again, dropped him again. Then he looks like he got hurt for a second, and that was the final punch. It was really insane that a guy that's that high level looked so slow and clunky. And I think it's something with the silk sheets with Anthony Joshua. Like, he just knocked out Francis and all that stuff. Now, like, he's good. He doesn't need to work ever again. Just really interesting versus Du Bois, who's young and hungry. And wow.
We look at guys like Tom Brady, who did it at the highest level forever, and he was always trying to just grind and grind and grind and grind. You just got to keep it going, but you see that a lot. We've got a French card with a lot of French people. Before we get into this card, let's talk about my bookie.
What about him?
They're offering up to $1,000 match on deposits right now.
Can I make a new account?
I think you should make 3 new accounts.
Okay.
3 different socials.
3,000. Okay.
Carry the 2. And mybookie.ag, use code Santino, and you will get up to $1,000 bonus. And do it anyway, just because it helps the show. So they track everything. And you guys want to help the show, use code Santino. They see code Santino is being used a lot, and they're like, wow, we're going to keep giving them money because they're signing people up. And then you can bet on football. You can bet on basketball. You can in-game bet. Do it at my bookie. Use code Santino.
All right, done and done. All right, on to the fights.
How many of these names are you going to butcher, Gabe?
Oh, none of them.
None.
I'm ready, man.
Let's do it. Who do we got?
All right, fight number 1 on the card. We have Bolaji Oki minus 205 versus Chris Duncan at plus 175.
I'll go because you asked if you could go first on the women's fight. So I said yes. And
I see.
We like to trade these off. And so that would put me at 1 and 3 and you at 2 and 4. And so I'll speak first and then you'll speak second.
I think somewhere along the line on every card, we just kind of messed that up. And we're like, okay.
Yeah. I know, but I will let you talk about Nora, Cornolle, and Jay.
I'm a big Nora fan, so you know.
I know, and that's why we're going to do it in this order. Man, Duncan is, first of all, he's tough, so we know what that means.
Okay.
Sorry. We saw him beat Oumar Morales.
Is that who he beat?
Yeah, he did. I mean, he's beaten a few people, but he beat Oumar Morales. And Morales traditionally had really good takedown defense. And Duncan kind of mauled him. And I think his time at ATT is probably, any time at ATT is going to help out with your cage wrestling and your wrestling as a whole. I really do think they're one of the best camps out there right now, and they're phenomenal. If you don't have a neck beard, go to ATT if you're not here in Arizona. But Duncan's tough. He loves the chaos. He gets hurt every fight. And then people think he's like the ultimate Homer Simpson. We always talk about Homer Simpson's like people just getting beat on until they get tired. He just gets beat on so badly that people are reckless. And then he ends up just swinging.
The Charlie Campbell fight, I'll never forget.
Oh my gosh. Like that one. And then even the Slava fight where he won that fight, it was like the opposite. He got Chris Duncan.
Yeah.
But Duncan is, he's fine. He's very fine. He is unathletic as they get. And the issue with Duncan is he's very square in his stance, and he leads, all of his punches are these big looping punches from this square stance. And Oki, who is not, I mean, he's very athletic and he does what he does well, but he's not going to be pulling flying arm bars or anything in terms of the grappling department. But man, he's physically as athletic as shit. He looks the part. He looks physical. He's fast. He's dynamic. But he has a really extensive kickboxing background, and he doesn't really get tired. He doesn't overthrow. He's fine. He just has a beautiful jab down the middle. Just jab, jab, jab. Down the middle, 1-2, down the middle. I mean, that is it. His wrestling's not amazing, but he sprawls and does the right stuff.
Again, athletic, reactive.
Yep. I thought his last fight against, who's the kid they pulled? Kwamba. So they had a split decision, which is absurd.
It was silly, yeah.
That was absolutely silly. He won that fight. He looked good. He did all the right stuff. I can absolutely see Duncan winning if he goes into a grappling heavy game plan. But he doesn't. He just doesn't. We saw it in the Oumar Morales fight. That's the only time we've really seen him swing, being in France, near his home country. I mean, and just being him, I assume he's just going to be swinging and swinging and swinging. So I've got to go. The guy with a good jab and good chin down the middle is going to hit him and meet him. I don't love it just because, again, there's a grappling upside of Duncan.
Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe. But I mean, Oki does all the right stuff. And, you know, he's a hometown favorite on this one as well. He's a Belgium kid, and Belgium is a stone's throw from Paris.
Okay.
And so, yeah, he's a hometown kid here with Scotland. Nothing good comes from Scotland.
Not a single thing.
Nothing.
Ever.
We know that as much as we know our own name. So I like Oki here.
I'm just going to go exactly what you said. I think that dude is so fast, so dynamic. But what I really like about him is his patience. Even against Kwamba, he was okay to just jab him for 15 minutes. He wasn't in a rush. He's not like a Terrence McKinney where, man, I'm so fast and so athletic and I hit hard, so let me burn myself out. He was like, all right, I'm good. I'm going to jab you and I'm going to move and see things. Like, he's super, super clean. You're right. The grappling side could get sticky, but honestly, I think he's athletic, and MMA has come far enough where, You just turn his back, stand up. I don't think Duncan's some insane jiu-jitsu guy, obviously, by how Manuel Torres just threw him down and got him. I like betting Chris Duncan against guys that are chaotic, guys that will make mistakes because he's Mr. Consistent and he will fight hard for your money. But a guy like Oki, who we saw in his last fight, all right, I'm good. I'll breathe. I'll jab. I'll move. I love that. So I like Oki here.
The only issue with Oki is outside long, he throws straight punches. When he gets close, he starts swinging meat hooks and his chin does come up. So he's got to make sure that when he goes in for the kill, he's not super reckless because Duncan will swing. Outside long, he's great. I just hope he keeps it that way.
All right. What is next?
I already told you, Nora Cornolle.
Okay. Nora Cornolle and Jacqueline Cavalcanti. Producer Gabe, what is the odds on this one?
Cavalcanti is minus 184. Cornolle is plus 159.
Ooh, I'm actually kind of liking that. I think we're going to near in on a bet on Cavalcanti. I know she's, short notice. She just fought the little midget Nunes, Josiane Nunes, and that was a split decision. I didn't get to really, really watch that fight, but I heard it was pretty bad because Nunes got outpointed. This fight is really interesting. I like Cornolle. I called her in the last fight against Mullins, which was she was a pretty big underdog in that fight. And I like Cornolle. I think she won against Edwards too. She brings the chaos. My issue with her in this fight, and here's actually why I'm worried about chalk on Cavalcanti. Cavalcanti is such a same kind of thing. She just jabs, moves. She's always back foot. She's constantly moving. It's little strikes. She's not really putting a stamp on much of anything. The thing about Cornolle, she's slow, big looping shots, but they have impact. That's the thing. She might not ever touch Cavalcanti. She might miss her every single time, but God forbid she gets on the arms. The French crowd is going to go crazy, and it looks so big and powerful. And so that's why I worry laying chalk on Cavalcanti is because everything of her is just tap, 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 tap for 15 minutes, just tapping. I think the big moments are going to be Cornolle, and the little just consistent moments are going to be Cavalcanti. If that line shrinks a little bit more, I'll work my way into Cavalcanti. I think she's the better fighter overall. She's taller, longer, faster, younger. I like a lot of stuff about Cavalcanti. I think Cornolle is too stuck. I wish she would be a little bit more reckless. I think that would win her the fight if she was like, all right, I'm just going to bite down and swing. But then sometimes she tries to be so technical that I don't think she's nearly as fast or athletic as Cavalcanti, which is going to get her stuck in the in-between. So I would say Cavalcanti decision. I think I like Jacqueline here.
All right, I'm going hometown Cornolle just because waving the Paris flag.
All right, next we have Daniel Barez plus 104 versus Victor Altamirano minus 124.
Man, Barez is actually really good.
I was going to say, I knew because you love Barez. I love Barez.
Yeah.
That dude is solid.
He really is good. He's legitimately very good. We saw with his Carlos Hernandez fight on Contender, hard, solid shots, ripping body shots, almost Ilya style, striking that left hook to the body, overhand coming up, just sniping mean punches. The timing on his shots is unreal. He shoots. Even that Carlos fight early, he was getting the shot, but Hernandez had an underhook and would kind of stop it. And then he found it in the second and the third round. What he does beautifully is he doesn't run and stay on the mat, is he gets people off the ground. And so then they can't defend, times it really well. It really does a lot of stuff beautifully in all facets of the game. I think the Filo fight, who he had on death's door.
He was about to put him out.
Yes, I think, and he came in last minute. So Barez came in, he was a replacement. I think him gassing in that and getting that quick tap on against Filo was more to do with him just being in last minute, adrenaline, almost death gas. Just versus him actually having an issue with it. But then he's fighting Altamirano, and Altamirano is the World Mayonnaise Championship, fighter of the year, where this dude is in there.
What does that mean?
It's he is greased up, sliding all over. He's a whirlwind of chaos, and you never know. It's all win or lose by split decision. You grab him, it's slippery and he's flying all over the place. And then, it's like they're in a vat of oil. Every fight of his is two people in a vat of mayonnaise flopping around. And then you just have to go who won that? I don't know who won that. Flip a coin. And then that's really how it goes. I think if here's the thing is Altamirano's chaos is hard to deal with. But if Barez doesn't get too caught, first of all, I thought Altamirano lost his, or I'm sorry, yeah, was it his last fight against Filo? Let me look. Yes, the Felipe dos Santos. I thought he probably won that fight.
Yeah.
I thought, and I know we kind of go, damage versus control versus this and that. But I do think his wrestling and with how close the fight was, how dominant he was in some of those wrestling exchanges, I thought should have stolen the fight. But Barez, I think he's just so much better than Altamirano on it. If they were to spar every day in the gym, I think he would probably murder Altamirano
every day.
But again, can he handle the chaos? And as long as he can handle the chaos, I like him here. And I think, especially at plus money.
That's so crazy to me that the line even flipped.
Yeah, plus money on Barez, who's the better fighter, who I don't think really, and now he has a camp. It's not him coming in last minute. And Jafal Filo, or whatever the hell his name is infinitely better than Altamirano. Like, give me,
even from that grappling weird perspective.
Yes, like give me Barez here. I actually, as crazy as it sounds, look, a split decision wouldn't surprise me at all. I wouldn't be surprised to see
him finish
Barez get a finish on this.
Yeah,
one.
I do too. His striking is clean. His hands are fast. He's a big flyweight too. People don't realize how big he is. Our Spanish friend Exo Mango in the Discord, lives in Spain, and he actually was telling us about this guy last week on Cage Warriors that was not so good. He's like, he's from a bad camp here in Spain. I know it well. Be careful. Sure enough, that guy gets choked out in the first round, like a minute in, right? And he goes, yeah, that guy's actually from Danny Barez's old camp. He's like, Barez has moved on to a better camp. So,
well, the thing, Barez is at Entrim Gym now, and he has been for a while. And it's so funny. I've been in this game for a long time, right? So I had my first fight in 2000, and in 04, 5, 6, 8, 10, that early 2000s, we would start to see the guys from Entrim Gym come up. And there's one guy, I forget his name, who is decent. And he was in the old, old San Diego shows that Del Furio from Alliance used to put on. I forget what they were, but he was the only one that would win. But anytime he took a step up, he would lose. And then all the other people from Entrim were like grapplers with no wrestling and no striking, but they were jiu-jitsu guys. And it was kind of a shit gym, and we kind of knew, all right, take the fight with Entrim. And the guys would be tough, but if they were like the higher level, if they were our higher level guys, we'd be like, all right, take the fight. And now they're actually a legit decent gym. Like, they've been around long enough. They've
got introduced to steroids. They got a boxing coach.
To EPO. They got a boxing coach and a wrestling coach. They're legitimately decent these days. And I think that's going to do them well, just getting, more than anything, getting the bodies to work with. So I like Barez here.
Yeah, by a mile.
All right, cool. Next, we have Ailin Perez at minus 258 versus Dariya Zhelezniakova plus 218.
Did you not say this one at all?
I might have, or I might not have. But the issue with this is that it's a woman's fight that I don't care about. But the other issue is that I actually think Ailin Perez, like as dumb as she is, can actually offensively wrestle a little bit.
Really well, yeah.
And she actually chained some stuff together. She's got a good little bit of power. Whereas not Perez, her striking is fine-ish, but she's just like the pretty girl they're trying to put in the UFC. And I think Perez just gets a takedown and beats her. Yeah.
Even that girl, so I had a ton on her in that fight against Rendon, and man, you're clenching your cheeks the entire time and kind of got away with one. And Rendon is 35 and slow as shit and can't wrestle or grapple, and she was wearing Zhelezniakova out bad. Like,
she has like 3 last names.
Yeah, I'm all for a recency bias and like how that factors into this stuff. But Perez is a go-getter. That's the thing about Ailin. Like, I have underestimated her by a lot. She is a go-getter. She can offensively wrestle. She's not afraid to hang out in the pocket. And I don't even think Zhelezniakova's striking is like dangerous.
Yeah.
She looks clean. She kind of looks the part, moves around, but it's not necessarily dangerous. So if she doesn't,
but a level change hard overhand is
equalizer.
Is an equalizer of all mediocre strikers in the sport.
And then the massive grappling upside. It's hard not to see Ailin winning. And again, maybe recency bias, but man, she looked so horrible in the Rendon fight. Her cardio looked bad. Her just basic stuff, getting off the fence, get ups. So it's just like everything looked bad in that fight. And the striking didn't look good enough to compensate for that. And I don't think Perez is that outmatched there either. So, I like Ailin here.
All right.
Cool. All right. Next, we have, Taylor Lapilus minus 350 versus Vince Morales plus 285.
Sorry, I'm just pulling up Lapilus's record really quickly and what he's done. I think so. We know Vince Morales. He just beat our guy Hunter. And that was sad. Since his days in the UFC, I think Morales has gotten better. I think he looks not even better. I think just more comfortable, just more experienced. Just like he was very raw in his early days of the UFC. And then since leaving the UFC, he's gotten some finishes, just beat Hunter. I thought he was down 2 rounds going into the 3rd round against Hunter. And then he just pulled out just a fucking beautiful Peruvian necktie.
Crazy finish. Yeah, we talked about it before.
Yeah, and a crazy scramble and this and that. But he got signed. Good for him. He got the nod back. And this fight is at 145.
Wait, is it really?
Yes, as opposed to 35.
Oh, wow.
So, but Lapilus, man, is he an MMA factory guy? Is he out of the...
No, it's still listed at 35. I don't know if that's just
for some reason I was thinking I think it's actually at 45 though.
Okay.
We'll see when it actually comes down to it because I thought it was short notice, but we'll see what happens. But man, Lapilus fought Farid Basharat to a decision. And I mean, yes, Farid got him down and did stuff, but even that was hard, and he was scrambling and getting back up and doing all the right stuff. And I think Vince is more patient than he used to be. I think his jiu-jitsu is a little bit better than it used to be. But I think stylistically, I think his offensively, the way to beat Lapilus, the way to beat any of these boring ass MMA factory guys are like, oh my gosh, you got to go into the fire. These guys are the worst style. It's like the lightest point karate run style I've ever seen in my life. And we have 3.
I like Lapilus.
Ferris Siam we have later. And then who's the third?
Yeah, but he's a Killcliff guy.
Yeah, but he was taught in France, and so he knows how to run. So, man, I think it's just a tough task coming in on short notice-ish. I mean, I know he fought recently, but that's not the same training for the same fighter. And I don't know how he wins this because Lapilus is going to touch and front kick and jab and then move. And he's athletic and long, and he holds his arm out there really far. And I think it's just going to be a really hard fight for Vince to try to win. I think the only way that he can win this fight is if he does create some sort of a scramble, catches a kick, dumps him, and then he jumps on his neck on the way up. And that's
a tough task. That's real slim pickings.
Like, that's really slim pickings right there. So I think Lapilus, I think the overhits, and I think it's probably a point karate decision for Lapilus here.
Because Vince is tough. I think that's going to be one of the better bets on the card is Lapilus decision. Vince is good. He's been boxing a lot, right? He puts a lot of combos together with his hands. But Lapilus is such a master of distance. You may call it running. I think he's a master of distance. I don't know. He looks good. I've always been a huge Lapilus fan. Everyone was on the Stamen train against him. Like, how is he going to do that? Because the dude's takedown defense is incredible. Yeah. His stand-ups are even better than his takedown defense. And then his striking is just, it's so clean. He's one of the guys I think that's most comfortable in his game. He's really excellent. I think that Lapilus decision, I love him.
William Gomis is a third I was thinking of.
He's the guy, yeah.
Gomis is touch and run and touch and run and
he's
touch and
the worst
run.
of them, though. At least Lapilus will sit down on some.
Brutal. All right, what's up next?
All right, next we have Ludovít Klein minus 900 versus Roosevelt Roberts at plus 600.
Go on this one. I mean,
come on. Isn't this like line a little crazy? You're going to have 3 minutes of hell with Roosevelt swinging bricks at your face.
Yeah, and then,
he's not the worst ever.
No, but Roosevelt just doesn't, he has fine boxing, standing upright, a beautiful jab.
He's like 3 feet taller than Ludovít.
Yeah, well, so is Ignacio Bahamondes. And man, Ludovít, first of all, that left, middle, and high kick is great. But Ludovít crowds the pocket and swings, and he has really good head movement.
He's come up on his game big time.
And his wrestling upside is massive. And so...
Yeah, I get it. Just, anytime I see minus 900, I just have no interest in playing it. But I guess he could finish Roosevelt.
I think, I don't know what the line is on Ludovít inside the distance, but I think that's the only way you play this, because I wouldn't even do by KO or submission or this and that. I mean, you could do that live.
I doubt he submits him.
Well, that's what I was gonna say, but Roosevelt turned so much that he might just like have it. That's what I'm saying. There's such a discrepancy, so you could see it kind of play out a few different ways. But yeah, Ludovít inside the distance is.
Roosevelt's got 3 minutes of hell. Just bet Roosevelt on DraftKings and under the 3 minutes just to cover your base there, and then you're in the clear.
That's it.
Cool. All right, moving along. Oumar Sy minus 450 versus Woon Jung plus 350.
Do you want to go on this one too first? I don't.
Yeah, I don't have a lot on this one because there's not a ton of tape on Oumar Sy, and then we saw the fight against Tukos. Man, I mean Tukos looks so fat and not
oblivious to what he should be doing. Like he just looked bad.
Yeah, just gave up his back. I was like, man, I bet on Tuco for a long time. And I was like, man, he's such a veteran. Like he's at Killcliff, one of the mainstays. He corners all these guys, him and Sean Soriano. Like he's one of the guys. And I was like, he's going to come out composed. He'll know exactly what to do. His stand-ups will be good. And he just literally got taken down in the first 10 seconds of the fight. He got his back taken and choked out. It was so embarrassing. And what's his name? Jung? Jung's good. Like my voice cracked. You hear that?
Puberty is
he's
real.
Good. Woon Jung is not bad at all. I mean, I think he's a good striker. Wrestling, like that isn't that kind of his thing, is like he's like a decent wrestler for a big old Korean.
Yeah, but people get under him. He does a lot of trips and a lot of sweeps, and he'll dump people. But when people do get under him, he'll get taken down. And that's what I'm assuming what was the line on this?
Sy is minus 450 and Jung is plus 350.
I find that insane.
That's what I'm saying.
Because we don't know.
We don't have the data. Does he gas out after a round?
Well, how is this striking? Like we literally have only seen him go in there and shoot and take people down and then submit them. We just don't know. Like,
and Jung's going to know that. Jung's going to know he's shooting. So he's going to be ready for it. He's a clean kickboxer. At one point, they were pushing him to be the next guy.
Yeah.
And then he got flatlined a couple of times, and now he's forgotten.
Honestly, like, look, I think Sy probably wins it. I think he probably
But how?
does.
How do we, like, what is...
He gets some takedowns, wears them out, punches his way into a submission. But I wouldn't put it in any of your parlays, but just laying money on Jung, just knowing that, because there's so many... If we knew more, maybe we could analyze more, but just off the unknown, like shit, throw some money on Jung, hoping that Sy gasses. We just don't know what is up. And I think that line being minus 450 with a guy we've never seen out of the first round, who doesn't have some amazing pedigree. It's one thing if he's a two-time national champion. So you're like, all right, now we know his wrestling is actually that good and blah, blah, blah. But just seeing his MMA record, and he has no accolades anywhere else.
Yeah, other than being Sadibu's brother.
Yeah, like, so, I mean, shit, I don't know how his stand-up is. I don't know how his cardio is. Like,
I'm going to go Jung, honestly. Like just the new meta of MMA where takedowns don't do as much. Like, we literally just saw Tukos turn his back and give up and die. Like, does he ground and pound? Does he have good top control? Can he hang on to guys? Is he some phenomenal jiu-jitsu athlete? We really don't know. Jung's a big old Korean. Like that dude's huge. He can strike. He's had a lot of UFC fights. I get he's on a 3-fight losing streak, but like 450 on this guy we have no data on.
In terms of like picks, if you're like, who is going to win? I'm like, all right.
Why though? That's what I'm saying.
Like
why?
In terms of like picking it, gun to my head, I'm like, all right, Sy will somehow probably win. They're in France. Somebody knows something we don't, blah, blah, blah. In terms of betting, I say either sit it out because you just don't know, or you bet the dog who is legitimately good. He's just lost some fights.
Yeah. Although in hindsight, losing to Devin Clark is tough.
That's a rough one. But Devin Clark, I believe, is a JUCO national champ.
He is. He
and
just
just
never
stylistically, his wrestling is. Look, I get it. I assume Sy wins this, but man, I wouldn't want to bet it, or don't leverage your house for this.
Yeah. All right. Carlos Hernandez. Anyways, next one.
All right, next we have Ian Cuțelaba minus 124 versus Ivan Erslan at plus 104.
Okay, so I just came in. I needed to watch some tape, so I brought my laptop. We were talking about this one. You said, hey, save it for the podcast. So let me hear what you had to say on this one, because I like Ivan. I think he looks the part. He looks solid, looks jacked, and steroided up. What you got on this?
I actually like Ivan, and I think he's going to do somewhat decent in the UFC. I think he's going to beat a lot of people. I think he's going to lose this fight. And Cuțelaba, and you know how much I hate Cuțelaba. Not personally hate him, or just his fighting and picking him in bets. I'm always picking against him because he's such a monster of a human that he's just a big ape.
You know what? He almost reminds me of Petrosky. Like after Petrosky getting hit on the hip and just dying randomly, and everyone like for the last few fights have been like, "Whoa, what's going on with him? He's so up in the air, it's so unpredictable." And Cuțelaba actually is really, really solid. Like he just
we have Cuțelaba, you've got Ryan Spann, you got Devin Clark. You have these guys that are really good and could just screw up everything. Yeah. Like they're just animals. But Cuțelaba's not bad. In his last fight against Philippe Lins, he showed a lot of really good stuff in there. He got calf kicked to hell, and I think that really made some, screwed some stuff up. But the thing that Ivan does is he has a really high guard, and he glues his hands to his face. And I mean, generally I like a high guard, but it's not, he doesn't measure with his jab and with his head movement on his way in. He's just kind of marches in with those hands high. And if you actually watch Cuțelaba, he doesn't stay close in the pocket. He actually floats outside. So then his opponents have got to actually close that distance in. And it's not like he's like a complete ape with that. So he actually, like, that people want to be, we'll say 10 inches apart. He goes 12 inches out. And so they're forced to kind of crowd that space. But in doing so, if you do it really well, like an Ankalaev, and you use your jab and you have good head movement and good fundamentals, then you're able to stave off the chaos of the overhands as they come in. But Ivan doesn't. He just walks in. And the way that he holds his guard, Cuțelaba, with such chaos, of course, the overhands can land around. But then just his style alone is really open to takedowns. Because he's not floating, he's not moving, he's not touching. He's just hands glued walking in. And we've seen Ivan get flatlined before, and
2 fights ago, which is crazy that the UFC signed him off of one win.
Yeah. And so I think he's very decent. I think he does a lot of stuff well. I think Cuțelaba in the style, the dangers that Cuțelaba poses are just stylistically, especially with Ivan's chin. It's not like a granite amazing
I watched 2 fights of his, and he got hurt both fights bad.
Yes. And so Cuțelaba does get knocked out, but I think that's more the guys he's fighting and the style of fight he's doing versus him having like a horrible bad chin. Like I don't think he has an amazing chin, but I don't think he has anything wrong with his chin, or we have chin issues. So you have a guy who does get hurt against a monster of chaos who is actually good everywhere. He's just an idiot. And I think Cuțelaba could rock him, take him down, and just ground and pound him. And I like Cuțelaba here.
I'll add 2 things, because Ivan's going to try to snipe him, but he's going to be on the back foot the entire time, right? Even in a lot of his fights, he's getting backed up by guys that are a lot smaller than Cuțelaba. He's very springy, which I like, and he's going to try to snipe and look and move, but he's constantly going to be on the back foot. And Cuțelaba's wrestling threat is going to be huge, just like you said, where he fakes a shot, come back overhand. I think that's going to be huge. The second thing is Cuțelaba wrestles so differently than a lot of guys. He's a lot of like into the wrestling and then hitting foot, like trips and sweeps and stuff. He's amazing as a wrestler. I think he really finds a way to get people down, and then his top control is actually like really,
and his ground
and
pound is good.
Oh, I mean, the guy has all the skills in the world. He's just, a complete ape. I like Cuțelaba here. I mean, the dude is solid. At any point he could die, obviously, but that dude gets hurt so much, and it's a lot of jabs. He's always probing with jabs. It's not like he's always putting the stamp on a ton of things. And I think Cuțelaba can wrestle. Those guys aren't even committing to wrestling shots on him. So I don't really have a good gauge of how good his wrestling is. But even if it was good on traditional takedowns, Cuțelaba wrestles very differently than a lot of guys. So
yeah, I think Cuțelaba is going to draw him in and either swing big overhands as as Ivan's coming in, or just go underneath into the shot and just embrace the chaos?
All right, we're in agreement. Are we going to disagree on anything on this card?
I hope so. Fuck.
All right, next we have Matt Frevola plus 103 versus Perez Ziam minus 123.
Hopefully we disagree on this.
Yeah, I'm going to go Perez.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Vola.
Okay, there we go.
All
Next
right,
one.
So, look, I think Perez is very good. Like he's good. I thought he lost the Malarkey fight. And
young in his career, he was like barely legal.
Well, man,
it's like what, 20 now?
So the Claudio Puelles fight, I mean, man, Puelles was able to enter quite a bit and drag him down and do a lot. And then you look at like Frevola, like look at this dude's record of getting in on taller, longer fighters and making their lives miserable. We've got Jalen Turner and Luis Pena right in a row. And those two long, massively tall humans that you've got to go through that fire and get in there and deal with the frightening damage of both of those guys to do it. Whereas Ziam, you've got the same task to get inside on somebody who's trying to pepper you.
Yeah.
And when he does get taken down, like he can be controlled. He does the right stuff, but he can be controlled and people lose, and he'll lose minutes on the clock. And then you look at like the Puelles fight. Puelles is like gassing and pulling guard and,
yeah,
and that's a split decision. It's very close. And then you have Frevola, who is swinging. I mean, he actually, in his last fight against Saint-Denis, I actually liked that there was some chaos and some exchanges, and Frevola was there. Saint-Denis, jump guillotine. They scramble back up. And at one point, Frevola got put on his back and just immediately came up and blast doubled Saint-Denis right to the mat and got it. And of course, Saint-Denis works himself back up, got the head kick, whatever. But man, Frevola's swinging and chaos, and honestly, even his chin, like, man, if Ziam, like the guy's beating Frevola, all right. Let me look at this. You've got Benoit Saint-Denis, who's she's DDP but smaller. Terrence McKinney, who's just a sniper, I wouldn't
call him a sniper.
Well, he's
more like a grenade launcher.
He's a dynamic, athletic guy who's going to cause some issues with most people. And then Arman Sarukian. All right, you have those two guys who are his most recent, and then Benoit Saint-Denis. He's beating Drew Dober, knocked out Ottoman, knocked out Valdez. I mean, he's just like murdering people. And then that Jalen Turner and Luis Pena fight, really, I think those things aged very well, especially considering the style of fight that Fares Ziam is as well. So I like me some Frevola here. And honestly, if you guys haven't seen it, go to Tapology and search Matt Frevola and just look at his Indiana Jones fight picture. I mean, that alone, you got to.
I think if you promised me that he was going to wrestle this entire fight, I would be totally down with Frevola, because that dude, his chain wrestling is amazing. His jiu-jitsu is very, very good. I mean, he's such a complete fighter. I think sometimes he likes to let his balls hang and he just wants to strike. And I think Ziam, he's a sniper. McKinney, not so much sniper. Ziam, sniper. I think that the wanting to swing and bang from Frevola is going to get him into some trouble here.
But I think even if Frevola does try that, as long as he doesn't get finished, he will swing himself into the grappling exchanges. Like he will.
I don't know how or why, but this kid, Ziam, is improving every fight. We saw him beat freaking, Figlak? Like just tossing Figlak around. He's like completing his game. What if he takes Frevola down? How about that?
Frevola immediately will find his way on top.
Think he's going to omoplata him?
Always.
Frevola by omoplata. Book it. I like Ziam. I don't know how Ziam's going to win, so like don't take me for that one. Take your advice on this one. I think Ziam's going to...
He's not going to aura his way through Matt Frevola.
He's going to.
He's not going to French aura his
French
way through.
twink.
Yeah, a little croissant over here.
Yomp.
All right, next we have Morgan Charrier minus 750 versus Gabriel Miranda at plus 550.
I don't think there's a ton to say on this one. Charrier he's the truth. I think he's really, really good. He's fast, hands, dynamic, makes a lot of great decisions. The only times we've really seen him struggle, is over 5 rounds, get a little tired and have a lot of close rounds.
I thought he won the last fight.
Oh yeah, I think most people did. I like Miranda. I mean, he does bring chaos too, and he's a little crazy. But I like the more solid guy. I mean, the number is insane, but I think Cherrier should finish. This is obviously a tee up.
Yeah, I think Cherrier finishes in round 2 or 3, or I think so. It's hard. You just hope that Miranda can last out of round 1 if you want to bet it. So you bet round 2 or 3.
But the good thing about him is he'll probably play guard even if he does get hurt.
Yes, but he's just so chaotic that
might get one-shotted.
Yeah, I think he's, again, you said it against Roosevelt Roberts. He has 3-4 minutes of fury where it's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Okay, he died. So yeah, I think his chaos is wild. He does have good submissions, but man, after 3.5 minutes, he's pulling guard. And Cherrier is legitimately really good. Cherrier's thing in competitive fights, he doesn't know how to win. He doesn't know how to hey, this round is really close. Let me not do that wild thing and let me just sit here on the fence and win this round versus let me go for the takedown where now I get put on my back and do that. He's so skilled and even has a really good fight IQ. He just loses these close decisions because he doesn't know how to win rounds. So I like him here.
Man, this is going to be a fast episode.
Should we do more talking? You know how many people come on the comments and are like, I'm sick of you guys talking at the beginning of the show. I'm going to find a new channel.
Dude, you guys are cruising through these. All right, next up we have Kevin Gisette plus 152 versus Brian Battle minus 177.
So going to the haters, don't people know that there's a slider on the bottom, and even if we haven't put timestamps up yet, you can just scroll through.
And we go in the same order every single week.
Yeah, so it's always an intro, and then you can just pick it up. You guys are fucking retarded.
They're like, new listener here.
Yeah,
I could do without the. I'm like,
yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
We've been doing this for 3 years. Let's switch it all up now because.
Tell me you're a new listener without teling me you're a new listener.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know.
We didn't talk about it more. I had a couple monologues written. We had some weeks off. Whatever. All right,
where are we at?
This fight, I'm so excited for. I cannot wait for this fight.
Tell me about it then.
I just think this one's going to be chaos. Gisette is just hands down, snapping jabs, low kicks. The dude is just in your face. He's like a French Sean Strickland, just going to stay there and jab you and jab you and jab you and jab you. And he's just, I love him. He's fun to watch. I think he looks a lot better in the UFC than his tape has looked. And Brian Battle, Brian Battle has recently looked insane good. I played Gisette. I played Gisette here. I think that the Ange Lusa fight is going to look so different than the Gisette fight. I think Gisette's a much more educated striker, although Lusa's got the athleticism and the spring and these kind of things. I think Gisette's just really calm. I don't think he's going to give that same pace and style to Brian Battle that Lusa was giving. I like him, honestly, just a jab, low kick, just kind of beat him up. And the more that Brian tries, I think the harder he's going to get hit. This is one of those fights that's really hard to predict, but I'd rather be on the plus money side. In France, the city kickboxing guy, I like Gisette. I think he's a fun fighter, and I think this is a stepping stone for him to kind of go to the next level to get the big push from the UFC. I don't have a technical analysis so much on this fight because Battle is just high volume craziness, and he's coming into his own looking really, really good. But, the flights, the travel, the hometown, so many things I think line up for Gisette in a fight that I think is very, very even fight. I'm going to go with Gisette.
Okay. One, I think the flights and the travel in the hometown, I think actually Brian Battle is in the better situation there because
Australia versus
America.
He's
coming from city kickboxing from New Zealand all the way around the world. So if anything, but then there are some people who, and I don't know Brian Battle's upbringing. Do you know if he's rich kid or a poor kid?
We could make up a story. He's from the slums of North Carolina.
Okay, then he's good. And
he had 3 moms.
What I've noticed is that the higher you are on the socioeconomic ladder, the harder you do with travel. And some people they fly into these other countries and they're like, 0 fucks, didn't bother me at all. We're good. And then other people are like, oh man, the light is 2 degrees south of where I'm used to it coming from. And I can't fight in these conditions. So I don't know, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. And I don't assume that Battle is going to be a guy that's going to affect. Like, I just think he's like mentally a gangster. I don't know if he's grew up poor or rich or this or that, but he mentally grew up poor. And so that kid is a fighter. Like,
He really is.
Yeah, I don't know what his background is, but so I have a couple things. Caleb Rideout. Do you know who that is?
Do tell.
That is Giuseppe's last loss.
Okay.
Built just like Brian Battle, skinny, gangly. But the thing with Giuseppe is that motherfucker's slow.
Yes. Slow and steady wins the race. You know what they say.
Like, yes, a marathon, but a sprint. Well, no, the, Jamaicans win that race.
Try spending 15 minutes.
Yeah, 15 minutes. So, Rideout, man, just did stuff. And Giuseppe, and I like Giuseppe, but man, he is square and stiff, and that left hand is low. And he does have a beautiful jab, and he has a beautiful check hook. That check hook I mentioned, well, one, just because he does it, but two, Brian Battle tends to lead with his face. Brian Battle leads with his face over his lead leg instead of his back leg. And so when you're going to do that, you better really be prepared to get check hooked and for stuff to be thrown at you and stuff. And you'll see on Battle is just out there in your face swinging instead of set back. And so if Battle is careless, he's going to get hit with that check hook. Is it going to hurt him? I don't know. I mean, but it's a thing that is going to occur. The issue, though, is that Battle is just fluid. He's
always working.
He's always throwing, and he's not stiff, and he has good volume. He doesn't have amazing volume. He doesn't have amazing speed. He doesn't have amazing power. He's just fluid, and he's loose. And we've seen him in things like the Petrosky fight, where Petrosky's ogre ass is blast doubling him, taking him down, murdering him, and he's just calm as fuck. Like, yeah, I'm cool. Like, I'm not.
Yeah.
He's Peyton Talbot big. Like, he is. And so I think Giuseppe and him are both mentally going to be fine. Neither of them are worried about the chaos. They're both just smooth. Like, they're cool as freaking cucumbers. But Battle is just faster and looser and just does more. And Giuseppe sits back. It'd be one thing if Giuseppe was like, all right, I'm going to grab him. I'm going to put a game plan. But he sits back and is going to jab and check hook his way through 15 minutes. And if you do that with Battle, who's just like, okay, I'll do this, but I'll triple your output. I just think that Battle is, by output and looseness and just speed, can really put a lot of numbers together on Giuseppe, especially when Giuseppe, you see his last loss, there was nothing spectacular going on. The guy just outworked him, and the guy wasn't better than him at all.
That's old. You say he's on the City Kickboxing Vitamins now. He's in the UFC now.
Well, one, he was with them for this fight, and two, that fight was only 2 years ago.
Okay, he's in the UFC now.
So
I legitimately mean this. It's weird. Someone must pull these people aside after they make their UFC debut, and they say, "All right, we're going to get you on a supplement plan." I really mean this.
No, I'm not kidding. I know.
I mean, how many people have we seen have the worst tape ever? They hit the UFC and all of a sudden they're amazing. Like, it's incredible.
Wild.
I bet we see that with another fighter on this card, Imavov.
Yeah.
I mean,
all right. So I like Battle. You like Giuseppe.
Yep. I guess we'll be going to Battle on this one.
All right. What's up?
All right. Next, we have William Gomis plus 230 versus Joanderson Brito at minus 270.
Oh.
But you can't catch him.
Can we erase this fight? It doesn't exist. Like, man, Gomis is the most boring human on the planet. I mean, not fighter. I mean, human. Like, if you guys are all out there, like, as humans, other humans, and there's somebody that you're like, oh my gosh, this person is so bland and boring and uninspiring as a human. That is Gomis to me. Like, that is him to me. I was watching Gomis's fight with Marshall, and then I went back and watched Brito's fight with
Jack Short.
God damn it! I'll be the one doing the talking here.
Hi.
Yes, Jack Short. But previously, before that, was Senor Perfecto.
Okay.
Bill Algeo. And because Gomis and Algeo are very similar in style.
Yeah.
And so I thought. So I'm watching that. And they're really not, because Gomis, that motherfucker, his track shoes are on, and he is running sprints laterally like his life depends on
And
it.
at least Algio stays, like he'll move and then he'll plant
and then
fire.
he plants. And then every time he planted, Brito would shoot. And,
I remember you were really critical of the, like everyone in shadow boxing was doing that little like step off hook. And you're like, stop doing that. Gomis is just step off hook, running, step off hook, step off hook.
but he does it as a southpaw
Yeah.
against orthodox fighters.
Yeah.
Which you're already at an angle, fine. Stop doing it stance for stance. You're not fucking Mayweather. But anyway, so initially I was like, Brito's going to kill him because before I watched tape, because Brito legitimately has, I mean, he got Algio down. He does some stuff.
He's another guy that's come a long way since he got in UFC.
His cardio has come a long way. But if you actually watch him, he got Bill down in round 1, took his back, which was impressive, and then Bill turned. After that, though, he couldn't get him back down. He couldn't put it together. You watch him against Jack Shore, and Jack Shore legitimately has very good takedown defense. He's a good cage wrestler. But Brito couldn't get him down. It was like a lot of cage wrestling that wasn't a lot going on. The Algio thing told a lot to me because Algio would plant, and Algio got really tired in that fight too, just in embracing the chaos with Brito. Brito, though, after that first round, his hands are not as powerful and as scary as they are. And our guy JSP fought Brito, winning, I think that fight, and then just mental lapse, getting up, got guillotine, leaves his head in there, whatever. One thing he said, he was like a piece of steel. He's like, he was so like stiff and strong, but not like that, like explosive or saggy or like even dynamic. He's like, no, he was like you couldn't move him. He was like built out of concrete.
I mean,
he looks like it. The issue is, you said it, is, man, Gomis moves. He just is never stationary. And the other thing that Gomis does really well is if you touch him on the cage, he's getting both underhooks. He just, and Algio was draping over the top, which is a very good takedown defense. It's just a different takedown defense. And Brito is going underneath him and locking hands. Gomis, man, underhook, peeling it left, right. I think a very boring fight where Gomis just point karates him to decision. And I think Gomis wins this by decision.
It feels like Brito's going to get frustrated, like really frustrated. I feel like, we might see this just because of how he came out in the Jack Shore fight. And he's like talking to him and he's like, let's go. I feel like he's going to get really frustrated at some point in this fight and then just keep like egging him on to like, hey, come here, let's fight. Come stand in the middle. Let's throw down. And those optics are always really, really bad for judges because it's clear you're so frustrated that you can't touch the guy. Now, do we all hope that he sparks him? Yes, of course. But I'm with you, man. I bet on Gomis like almost every fight. He is good. I mean, he is good. He's really fast. He's twitchy. He's like French. Who do we say? French Onama. Like he's just fast, but he can wrestle. He got good stand-ups. Like he does everything.
He's just hard to find.
Yeah.
It's just hard to find.
And then again, the French crowd, they're going to be giving extra emphasis to his little one jab. Oh, wee.
And being a southpaw, we saw in the Brito fight with Jack Shore, he threw 500 leg kicks in a row.
Yeah, where are those going to be now?
Yeah, where are they going to be? I don't know. And then now all of a sudden, how do you close the distance?
He has a really nice body kick too.
Yes, he does.
I do like I like Gomis' decision. I think that's going to be a great play. And you play that early, and then you can close in as that line starts to shrink during the fight. Maybe you think it's a close fight, it's toss up, maybe Brito's winning. I think that line is going to close because I think it's pretty wide right now. And then I think you can start launching on Brito to kind of even yourself out if you need to.
There you go.
All right, next in the co-main, Nassourdine Imavov minus 210 versus Brendan Allen plus 180.
Give me your thoughts. I know you love some B. Allen.
I used to. Actually, he's coming a long way these days.
He looks good these days. No, he looks good.
I think Imavov's going to destroy him. And the reason that I say that is Allen is kind of the overachiever, constantly overachieving. Even in these fights, he looks horrible. He's still finding a way to win. Like Malkoun fight. I know a lot of people thought Malkoun won that fight. Very, very close. And he doesn't really find his flow, makes a lot of mistakes, right? He's constantly dropping down for footlocks and stuff. His striking, I overrated it for a while too, right? After he beat Puna, and then we see Puna, I don't know, so much learning with B. Allen. And I do think he's progressing. I do think he's very, very good. He beat Andre Muniz, which I picked him there. I thought he was going to kill Muniz. I don't think I don't rate him very, very high. Imavov in a 3-round fight, that's a tall order. That's a really tall order because he'll wrestle his ass off and he'll defend and he'll do all the right things for a few rounds. And B. Allen doesn't start doing the right things until round 3, right? That's when he actually starts chain wrestling and getting people down and stop jumping to his back. Imavov's a sniper. I mean, his striking, I remember at some points, I'm like, man, this guy's one of the best strikers in the UFC. He does snipe you, but then he'll put it to you. I think this, I don't know what else to say. I think I like Imavov here. I think he's just going to pick him off. I think he can hurt B. Allen a lot of times. And I don't think it's going to be till round 3 where you start really seeing the danger of Allen. The other thing too is Imavov's so comfortable and he fights at such a nice range that he sees a lot of stuff coming. And at least for the first 2 rounds, he can wrestle his ass off. So give me Imavov. I think he wins this fight.
If you told me Brendan Allen's game plan, I would be so much more confident in breaking this fight down.
Yes.
Because Brendan Allen, some days he just looks amazing. And then other days, I think it was a Silva fight where the Bruno Silva just take him down and submit him. And you're like, well, that was easy. Why not just do that? But I think you're right. I think he overvalues his own striking. And I think he's slow. I don't think he's a great striker. I think he's a very fine striker. But I was rewatching the Curtis fight and he's throwing the low. He throws too many feelers out there. And then he's able to get countered. And Imavov is long and snipes and goes and does all the right stuff standing. The issue with Nassourdine is his cardio. And that's always been the issue. And really his cardio issue is really predicated upon wrestling. Once he starts wrestling, his cardio goes down. We saw that even in the round 1 in the, who did he fight last? Cannonier. You see him definitely look slower. And of course he got a second win, but he slowed down, especially in round 2. And then he started to pick it back up and did a lot of better stuff there. And Cannonier is not a guy who is putting together grappling game plans. And he kind of tripped Imavov down, jumped on him. And as I was watching, I was like, man, if that was Brendan Allen,
now he's on top.
He'd be on his back, climbing and going.
At any point, though, he's liable just to jump for a heel hook or a guillotine that falls
but I don't
off.
think he's doing that anymore. I think he knows. I think he's gotten out of that habit. And so then I wonder, I think in a striking battle, I think Imavov just picks him apart. And he's got that lead teep to the body that really is going to mess with Brennan.
Shots.
Of course, he snipes stuff. It's great. And honestly, his offensive wrestling against Chris Curtis was amazing, which you don't see Chris Curtis getting taken down like that. And he just got mauled and beat up. And then, of course, the headbutt stopped it. I want to say Imavov can win 2 rounds before he gets tired and then he survives. But, man, if Brennan goes out there and just starts wrestling right off the bat, it could really tire him out and, Imavov out and he could just right from there, just kind of start draining his thing. Like a Fluffy Hernandez, man. You put Fluffy Hernandez in there and just let that dude's cardio wear on you. And you're man, he just won't die. You're like, all right. I'm kind of with you. I think Imavov can win 2 rounds to 1 just on cardio before he starts to fade. But man, I have very little confidence.
It's a close fight for sure.
Yes,
either guy can look big favorite.
The biggest thing is I think it goes over. I think the over hits. I think it goes to a decision. I don't think one of them is going to put the other one away. If there's a finish, I think it is a knockout of Brendan Allen. Otherwise, I think it goes to a decision. But I very low confidence in Imavov, but I think it goes to over.
All right. That leads us to the last one. That's our main event. I like your hair today, producer. You got the shooting through the hat.
Yeah.
We got anything we want to promote, boys?
Not a thing, actually.
Just go to your local Starbucks, support corporate America.
Oh, I was looking back in some old episodes yesterday. I saw you had your wrestling shirt.
Oh, yeah. Arcadia Wrestling.
Yep, Arcadia. It's cool how you spelled Arcadia, too. That's really cool.
Are you kidding?
No.
Okay. Do you want to know where I got that from?
Do tell.
Well, one, it's not rocket science. Arcadia, spelled Arcadia.
Yes.
Phonetically, are the letters RKDA. There you go.
Okay.
So over here on Indian School and 44th Street is Doughbird. And on the side of Doughbird, it says RKDA.
I never picked that up. We've been there many a time.
I remember like for weeks as they were building that, driving by, and Kindle and I are like, what is that? And we're like, oh, Arcadia. Anyway, that's where it came
Someone
from.
buy his house. Yeah, that's what we want to promote. Someone buy your house.
Yeah, one, somebody buy my house. And then two, if you want to support our nonprofit wrestling club, it's Arcadia Wrestling. I'll put a link in. Please do. We don't take any money. We give a lot of kids free memberships. There is a price to join the club for people just so we can keep the doors open and pay legit full-time coaches. That said, I let a lot of kids train for free. I also actually buy a lot of the kids' shoes because I want to make sure that they have shoes. And so if they're wrestling, I would literally, I'm like, hey, what size shoe do you wear? And I will go buy them shoes, and I make sure that they're not the shitty shoes, but they're like a decent pair of wrestling shoes, because I want to make sure that all of the kids have shoes to wrestle in. We pay for a lot of the kids' USA Wrestling membership cards, because I don't ever want money to ever be the reason why kids aren't wrestling. And so if I have to give them a free membership, if I have to buy them shoes, if I have to pay for the wrestling card, I will. And I'm happy to do it, because there really isn't any Central Phoenix wrestling around us. And I want my kids to be able to wrestle. I want other kids in the area to be able to wrestle. And then I want our instructors to be able to make a good enough wage off of it to where it's not a hobby. It's not something, oh, well, I'm going to skip it today.
They look forward to coming in and teaching you and being passionate about the things.
Well, not only that, is I want there to be enough kids so that they have the ability to create a full-time job for themselves post-fighting, because like it's a rough life. And if they can make money teaching wrestling, and I can have enough kids paying for wrestling to cover that, and then have as many kids that can't cover the cost of wrestling, to be there as well, I'm fine with that too. I don't get any money. I've lost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on it, and I don't care, because I want kids to be able to wrestle.
It's a good cause. It really is a good cause.
It really is a good cause. So if you guys want to donate, that's awesome. If not, fuck off. But for those of you who have, I really appreciate it. And I give a lot of
write-off.
It's a tax write-off. I mean, you guys can donate. It really, honestly, it really changed my life. So I'm not kidding. So after I started the wrestling club January of this year, and there's always such a rat race of me. You guys know me. I'm always busy.
Something random always too.
I always have projects. I always have stuff. Once I started that, and my kids started wrestling, and I started bringing my kids to wrestling, I'm like, nothing else matters. Like, we're good. Like, it really put everything in a perspective of my life, that like, really, I just want to be around my kids, and I want to hang out with my kids more, and all of the other stuff doesn't matter. And it really just slowed my own world down, which is just, really nice. So anyway, Arcadia Wrestling, that's what I got.
All right.
Very cool. In the main event, we have Renato Moicano plus 230 versus Benoit Saint-Denis at minus 270.
This is the first card in a long time. I think we're going to see a lot of finishes.
Yeah.
I think that there's been so many cards. Like, betting is just hard, because you're just like, man, this guy's going to kill this guy. And then it constantly goes to decision. Like, even the fights, you're like, oh, the most obvious one goes to decision. All of them. Even like Tom Nolan the other day, like with Reyes, who gets hurt every fight, just been knocked out, hasn't fought in forever, goes to decision, right? It's just hilarious how many of these do. I think this card is going to be a lot of finishes. I really do.
Who's finishing whom in this fight?
I think that Benoit Saint-Denis is going to finish him. I think that dude's violent. I mean, legitimately, I think he had staff in that last fight. Still gave Poirier the time of his life. The dude is just really violent. Like you said, he just, every position he's looking, how can I hurt you? How can I do something? He's not crazy technical. He's hard to describe, but he's just a force. And I think he's going to get Moicano down. I think he's going to throw a lot of elbows, and then he's going to work his way. He really is a good grappler. He is a good grappler. You've said that about him for a long time. His cage wrestling is amazing. His top control is amazing. His back takes, like, he is a great grappler, but he's violent with it. Like, lots of elbows, lots and lots and lots of elbows. I think if we saw Dober, who looks so much smaller than Moicano, do so well, and like you said, even with the AQ fight, he was one defended takedown away from from winning that fight and murdering him. And that's in a 3-round fight, not in his home country. I mean, Benoit Saint-Denis is so much bigger, so much stronger, better grappler than Dober. Probably not as technical on the feet, but man, he's violent. He hits hard, and he's willing to walk through hell to do it. I like Benoit Saint-Denis here.
Yeah, on a technical level, this fight I don't think really matters. I mean, of course it does, but I think Benoit is gonna out-grapple Moicano. He's bigger than him. He's strong. He's the chaos, like all of that. I think he's phenomenal there. Boxing, I don't really think it matters. Why did I scream that? I was like, boxing. Yeah, and I'm like, I scared myself.
People don't know shit about boxing.
We talking about boxing? Look, Moicano's a better boxer. Like, let's not.
He is cleaner, straighter punches. Yeah.
The issue though is that Benoit doesn't box. He's gonna stand outside and throw that left middle kick. And so
that shit is vicious too.
Yeah, and so I think that takes a lot of the boxing out of the equation early. Then, of course, Benoit's going to wrestle. He's at a new camp. I think he actually went with Imavov and all of those MMA.
That's kind of bearish, honestly.
Yeah, it actually doesn't make you like it. You don't want a technical Saint-Denis.
Nope.
The second you do that, you start trying to get like a Terrence McKinney technical. It's like, no.
No, he's Alex Hernandez now.
Well, that and Paulo Costa is a good example of that. Paulo Costa needs to go just enjoy the chaos. The second you start to try to put the reins on him, yeah, like you said, Hernandez. I mean, now you're tip-tapping and going, and it's just not going to work out the way that you want. But where I see this fight, the real difference is, can Benoit put him out before he death gasses? Where Moicano is used to 5-round fights. He's used to long fights. He's known to have good cardio. Can he not die before Benoit fades out? And that's that weird, like, what's the tipping point here of Benoit's cardio versus damage versus what? I like Benoit here. I like him to just like get a takedown and just start swinging. I could actually see him submitting Moicano by punching him and beating him and then just grabbing a rear naked choke or something.
It's not really like Moicano's like a marathon runner either. Like he was fading pretty hard in the Dober fight. That's why we're like, oh shit, Dariya bits in on Dober. Dober's fresher. Yep. He's not the cardio king. And like you say a lot of times is that he's willing to drown and he's going to take you with him. And he's a little better swimmer.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the other thing is that Moicano's a little bit of a sharpshooter as opposed to just a power guy. I mean, look at the Poirier fight. If Poirier wasn't swinging for the fences, he loses that fight. But Poirier's swinging power for power and going. I think if Moicano tries to out-wrestle Saint-Denis and grapple him, and I just think it's a losing affair. I just think Saint-Denis' MMA cage wrestling and physicality is going to be too much for Moicano early anyway. Of course, if it gets past round 3, it's like, ugh. So I definitely think Saint-Denis wins it. However, if you're watching live and it's like, oh man, he's not going to put him out and round 3 is going to end. How tired does he look? Live betting Moicano in round 4 and 5 could be.
I honestly think though, it's going to be dependent on how the first rounds go. If Benoit is getting him down easy and transitioning to, a 3/4 mount, dropping elbows on him, that's a lot more tiring than being the one throwing the elbows. Trying to lift someone off you that's that big and that strong.
Well, it's also more tiring if he's getting the takedowns and Moicano is just getting back up to his feet.
Well, that's troublesome.
Tiring.
Yeah, that's troublesome.
Now, if he's getting the takedowns and just winning, all right, well, that's like jiu-jitsu is not tiring.
It's weird. His top control is so good for not being like a super smooth jiu-jitsu guy. Mm-hmm. Like his top control is really, really good. He's got a good fundamentals of controlling the hips, controlling the head, throwing elbows, damage. He's solid.
For France. This is Je suis Paris.
We needed this one. We need this one. Yes,
we need this
for
one.
France.
Yep,
the only time we'll ever root for France in our lives.
That's it. That's our show.
Thanks, guys.